Hello Dreamboats, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for this video. This one is predominantly going to be for those of you who work with deities, ancestors, spirit guides, any sort of disembodied intelligences, any sacred beings that you work with, that you have communion with and devotion to, and you kind of work alongside them, you work with them to really sort of grow and develop and to create the life that you want, to solve problems, to troubleshoot and all that good jazz. It's really inviting you into a discussion, especially those of you who have ever been confused or frustrated when the beings that you work with and that you've dedicated yourselves to aren't helping you out. They are not really providing you with answers. It doesn't really feel like they're there for you. And it feels like they're kind of left you in the lurch and they're leaving you to deal with problems alone instead of showing up and providing to you their divine muscle to help you to push through the blocks and to help you get where you want to go. If you've ever felt a little bit kind of like abandoned or ignored by beings that you're working with and by disembodied intelligences that you are requesting help from, this video offers perhaps a little bit of a reframe and gives you an opportunity to contemplate what you really want from your relationships with beings and what you feel is really happening when you work with them. I'm definitely going to be talking today about the idea that we see these powerful cosmic allies as interventionist deities who can step in and step up the pace when it comes to figuring out world problems and figuring out personal issues. And I want to encourage us to look away from that point of view and move towards the idea that we are co-creating and that we are learning and moving alongside these beings, as opposed to thinking of them as like a one-stop shop for solutions or a panacea, right? Beings that are going to help to solve everything and give us access to the keys to our lives. I want to encourage a way more expansive and a deeper and more meaningful way of seeing them, but one that also might require us to do a little bit more of the heavy lifting. I can definitely see that I have a beautiful light refraction coming over from one of my sun catchery things, whatever they're called. Yeah, sun catchers. So hopefully that won't bother you too much because I really love it actually. So let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about deities, about beings, about our cosmic allies. What are we supposed to be doing with them? And what can we understand from the times where they don't turn up that much and we are feeling frustrated? Every so often I receive emails or comments from people and they will say to me, Kellyanne, what do you think about the fact that the gods are not assisting us with stopping things like inequality, police brutality, genocide, homelessness, the big collective shadows that we're dealing with as a society, you know, the rise of things like fascism or white supremacy? What do you think about the fact that the gods do not have their hand upon these issues and are doing whatever they can to help us to dismantle them, no matter how many times we ask them? You know, I get emails and comments sometimes from people saying, is it possible that the gods that I work with don't want me to succeed because I'm asking for assistance with my personal pathway towards success, or I'm asking them to come in and bust through these blocks for me? And it's not happening. Whenever I ask for that kind of thing, it's like they've removed themselves from my life. They're not there. It's like they're not listening, or they don't want to be a part of what it is that I really want them to help with. So what is going on there? There is a belief that the beings that we've dedicated ourselves to and that we work with are supposed to intervene, rather like firefighters. They're supposed to come along when we're in the shit and they're supposed to basically iron everything out. And I suppose the question that I began to ask myself many moons ago was, what if that is not their role at all whatsoever? You know, what if the interventionist notions that we have about disembodied intelligences are not the most useful way of seeing our cosmic allies, and they are not the way that we would get the most muscle and the most strength and the most potency out of working with our cosmic allies? One thing I always try and remember about my work with disembodied intelligences is that they are not there to do for me. They are there more to like show me how it's done, and they are not there to be my heroes and my saviors, but to teach me how to locate the archetypes of the hero and the savior within me and bring those archetypes to the front and really allow myself to see how well I can embody those archetypes in my life journey. If you have ever felt abandoned by your gods, ignored by your guides, or frustrated by the silence of the spirits that you are so connected to, then I would ask you to consider this. Maybe it's not that they don't care. Maybe it's that they are not actually there to save you or to show you the way. They are here to strengthen you, to illuminate you, to awaken you to your own power, to be able to solve your problems and to be able to take action on behalf of the planet that you live on, and to take action to be really in the driver's seat of your own life. So it's really about shifting the paradigm. And a question that I really, really want to put to every single one of you watching this is, to what degree do you feel like you have previously looked at the beings that you worked with as though they are supposed to be interventionists? And when they are not intervening, you are feeling let down, you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling sidelined. How often has this happened to you in your path? Have you already made the change to seeing them as beings that are helping you to anchor into your own power? Or is this a change that you feel you need to make right now as you're listening to me? That you actually need to come away from the idea that these beings are interventionists, and if they're not intervening, then they don't care. And you need to move towards a paradigm where you're thinking, you know what? They don't fix all my issues. They help me to anchor into my own power and bravery. There is this idea in Jungian psychology, and it's this whole idea of like the mythic mirror, right? This idea that when we read myths and when we connect with gods and when we look at fairy tale and folk tale and all of those things, right? Fables, what we're really doing is we're linking into all of the archetypes that are within us. We're looking at the different experiences and life paths that can be prevalent in the human condition. We're connecting with our unconscious. We're connecting with our dreams and our fears and our hopes, etc. The sort of like, you know, the backstage of the psyche, if you will, everything that is within us, right? And we're really linking into these parts of the human story so that we can come to understand ourselves more, so that we can understand the cycles that we need to break and the parts of ourselves that we want to be able to amplify and bring to the front more in our reality. And I think for me, when I'm working with Hel, for example, the Norse underworld goddess who is my matron, I am very often thinking about her in terms of mythic mirror. I'm thinking about how I want to connect to her signature strengths, to see them within myself, and to locate the place inside of me where I am that death goddess that is single-handedly ruling the underworld, unmarried, child-free, doing what the fuck I've got to do, showing up and like doing exactly what it is that I know is my mission. And when I work with her and when I commune with her, it's not really so much about me asking her to intervene. I'm asking her to hold a mirror up to the parts of me that I might find it difficult to access if I wasn't journeying with her. And that can be such a powerful shift in our perspective whenever we have sort of leaned too much into the idea that gods and guides and disembodied wisdoms are there to sort things out, right? Just like kind of cut out the crap and help us get where we want to go, move the obstacles, push aside the boulders. I think it's so much deeper than that, but I think it's also something that requests so much more from us than that. What would it look like if you had to check your attitude towards the beings that you work with a little bit more? What would it be like if you, for example, had to look at how often you have thought about a particular god or being as an emergency button that you press when things get really difficult for you in life? What if you had to look at every single time you have hoped or expected that the beings that you work with would avenge your heartbreak or fix your finances? Why might it be important for us to really look at any attitude that we hold that appears to be a little bit as though we think that the beings we work with are kind of like celestial employees that are waiting for our next command?
What is thy bidding, my master?
Why might it be important for us to realize that expecting constant intervention or very extreme intervention sets up a codependent relationship and very often leads to disappointment and also may lead to personal weakness? Because even if we get what we want out of that intervention, what happens the next time we're up shit creek without a paddle, right? What happens the next time we realize that this issue has come up? Do we just keep turning to the god? Do we just keep sucking at the cosmic teat? Or is there something within us that actually learns from those lessons, sort of absorbs those mistakes and knows what to do next time in the art of battle? So instead of calling out to, you know, our big daddy God or our beautiful guides that we work with or whatever it is, we instead witness that like, oh, this is my battle. I'm holding the sword right now. What did I know about this last time that can help me with this? And how can I be strengthened by the fact that I know I have the bravery and the courage to be able to do this? And yes, you may always feel like your beings are very much on side for you and they're cheering you on. You might very much feel that in some distant way, they are rooting for you. But why must it be important to feel that they are right there holding the sword instead of you, doing the battle on your behalf? Why isn't that something that we question whenever we feel like we want the gods to do that for us? Because actually, that's not a very strengthening thing. That is something that we would seek to discourage our own children to do, for example, right? Like in parenthood, we very much want to make sure that our kids can grow up and fend for themselves. At least we do when our parental operations are functional. Functional parents really have this attitude that, like, I want the kids to be able to do for themselves. I want them to be able to look after their finances or deal with, issues where they're being attacked or bullied or whatever. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be there for them, but there is something in the parental instinct a lot of the time that tells you know what, I'm not going to be around forever. The world is a big bad place. I'm not going to be there for every challenge my kids go through. So I want to make sure they've got the materials they need so they don't feel like they have to call on me all the time. Why wouldn't it be the same for disembodied intelligences? Why wouldn't it be a part of their nature to make sure that you understand that in earthly reality, you are the one that is heading things up. You are the captain of your ship. And you can't be calling them in to calm the seas every time there's a crazy storm. When crazy storms arise, it's more likely that you're going to want to go for the mythic mirror approach, whereby you look at them and instead of thinking, help me, like come in and do for me, you think, what would my gods do in this situation? What signature strengths do they have that I can really start to emulate and that I can start to try and find within myself? How can I connect with my beings as a sacred example of what is the next right action, rather than connecting with them only as the emergency call I make, right? Or the request for some first responders to come in. Sacred beings very much embody a lot of the values that we want to emulate in the midst of challenges. Things like courage, strength, compassion, love, wisdom, insight, receptivity, whatever gods and guides and beings you work with, I'm sure you can think of the incredible signature strengths that they have in their repertoire. And actually, it's really about you knowing that you are connecting with your beings as teachers to help you to foster those strengths and find those strengths and reclaim those strengths if you feel like your upbringing or your experiences have made you feel a little distant from those strengths. So you feel like you're building up your own capacity to demonstrate those strengths all of the time. What would it be like if the beings that you worked with and that you devoted yourself to were seen as a kind of archetypal instruction manual for how to bring those qualities and how to bring those different roles within you to the fore, instead of seeing them again as your emergency contacts, the heroes that sweep in at the last minute and save the day? So the question shouldn't be, why aren't they fixing this? The question should be, what would they do if they were in my position? Let me actually take on their stories and their examples and their signature strengths and use those things to fight my battle now in this moment. And I will do that in their honor. I will put the glory on their name, but it will be me that came to the front of my life and made that happen. Divine power should never remove human responsibility, and the agonies that are taking place in material reality right now are a human responsibility. They are not for deities to come in and clean up all of the time. Maybe you have seen examples that your beings that you work with can intervene. They have actually moved aside some obstacles that for you on your own felt fairly immovable. You were doing everything and you just could not move those boulders, and then your beings came in and did it for you and you thanked them for that. And so it's quite difficult for you, isn't it, when you've had those experiences, to then try to understand, well, why are you not intervening here? Why are you not doing this as well? So it can be a little bit confusing. For me personally, in my journey with working with beings, I have never seen them as interventionist, and I don't think it's helpful for me to view beings as interventionist. I actually think that what they are there to do is to inspire us to cleanse and to change our human heart, to be able to take the actions that put us in right relationship with our own ethics. I can definitely point to experiences where my beings have come in and they have steadfastly guided me. They have shown me certain doors and certain pathways that I wasn't seeing with my own two human eyeballs, okay? And with my own very restricted ego. And that's been amazing. But I still don't see that as them actually intervening to change the obstacles or calm the seas. I don't think they put their hand on the wheel and steered the boat for me. I think they were incredible consiglieres. They were whispering guidance into my ear in such a clear and awesome way, that I felt like I could really connect with my power and bring the ship into harbour. So in that way, I would say they are interventionist, but they actually don't put their hand directly on the human machine. For me, I don't really feel like that is actually their role. I don't think that is something that they either can do or that is really like, you know, in their machinery to do, right? I think it's so much more powerful than that. I think they actually steer and guide and guard the human heart. And that if you let them in, the alchemy that they will create for you is so much more than just shifting a few material obstacles. It's making you a better class of person. And if you have a really clear connection to a being, I feel like very often that is what you can give them the most credit for. I believe that your sacred team of beings is on your side, but they will never rob you of the growth that comes from actually taking action and actually showing up. Even if you feel that your being is deeply interventionist, right? That they can intervene in human affairs. Not only that, but they can intervene in gigantic, large-scale human affairs, right? Things like wars and genocides and famines and stuff like that. If your being intervenes in one, then there is always going to be another, because the problem is the rot in the human spirit. The problem is that we are not doing our shadow work. We are always othering other groups of human beings. We are always deciding whose life is worth more or whose life is worth less. We are always fucking spiritually bypassing. We're always turning away. We're always deciding that we have the right to ignore anything that disrupts our sense of comfort, right? Until those problems are fucking sorted out, then a being could intervene in one thing, but there will always be a million other things. Like there are 100 things happening right now that are deeply fucking unfair. There is never just one issue. There are all these interconnected issues, and it's actually for us to do the shadow work and to actually like shift our paradigm as a humanity. And so I even think that a firefighting deity who really genuinely is deeply interventionist might look at something and be like, you know what, it's one shit show after another after another. I'm going to elevate myself to a point of view where my purpose is to help humans shape their hearts accordingly and find their own fucking power, because it's only when humanity finds their own power in their shared compassion and their desire for parity that this stuff is going to stop en masse all the time through every ongoing era and civilization. For me personally, in my relationship with especially hell and also with the Holy Mother, but with other beings that I work with as well, prayer is hugely powerful. And I know that for a lot of people, prayer is quite a sticky word, because a lot of people will think of prayer as petitioning. First of all, it's got a lot of religious baggage attached to it for a lot of people, but also very often people think of prayer as a petition. It's a request, it's an ask. And in many ways, my prayer is a petition, but it's a petition to find the strength within myself and to be able to shift my internal paradigms in order to be able to act, in order to be able to be a person of conscience, and to be able to break cycles in my own behavior that will enable me to operate in a way that I feel I really want to operate in this reality. So yes, it is a petition, but it's not a petition for intervention from the being. I feel like that's the weaker path. That's the easy way out. That is the codependent trap that you can get yourself into. Prayer is most powerful when it encourages me to act in accordance with and in alignment with what I really truly know to be right in my heart. Yeah, that's where prayer to me is the most potent that it can be. And I try to keep my mind on that. Also, another thing that I want to say about the idea that beings are interventionist is I've always found it a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe some of you will agree here, but I always find it a little bit uncomfortable when I hear people say like, oh, it was my God that saved me from this massive like accident or incident that I was in that killed so many other people. But like God was on my side, God saved me that day. I think faith is a beautiful and incredible thing. And I think relationships, rich relationships with disembodied intelligences, amazing. I'm obsessed. I have all the time for that. And I think it can be an incredibly life-saving device. I think it can be an incredibly enriching part of the human condition. So I'm not here saying we need to just oust that. But when somebody is making out that their being is the reason that they survived when other people didn't, or is the reason that their family is thriving and has enough money when all around them other families are struggling, that gives me the ick. It just gives me, does anyone know what I mean? It gives me the fucking ick. It's just like, I don't want to believe that my being intervened to assist me in some personal success or to assist a group of people that I identify with and that I'm a part of with some collective need, when all over the place other people are struggling and starving and scared and alone or ill or whatever it is. I don't know, there's some kind of arrogance that comes along with that. I don't know why the correct words are not coming to mind for me right now on this, but I wonder if you can hit me up in the comments if you know what I mean. But I've always just found it really uncomfortable. And I've always just looked at it and thought, okay, so fuck everybody else that was in the accident or in the dilemma, right? Like, fuck everyone else. It's you that God decided to save from this illness, or it's you that God decided was going to walk free of this, dangerous natural disaster that killed everybody else, And I do understand the desire to put the credit and put the glory onto the beings that you have faith in. But there's also something about it that kind of seems very arrogant and presumptuous of like, oh yeah, well, the deities are going to intervene for me because I have that incredible relationship with them and I'm doing the right thing. And what it sounds like is a little bit like you're saying I'm a superior class of fucking person. So I've always tried to avoid that all my life as well. There's something that I really want to mention in this video that I have mentioned in other videos as well when I've been talking about deity work and connecting with disembodied intelligences. And I think it's really important. I will say that very often when beings that you're devoted to and close to go quiet when you are going through challenges, I really think it can be because they are trying to put you in touch with your own strength, and they do not want to give too much advice, and they don't want to steer you too literally towards the answers, because they're encouraging growth within you. And this is something that I have said about my connection to hell many times. Hell goes quiet most of all when I really feel like I need her and I need her to show up and I need to feel like she's with me, or I'm asking a lot and I'm praying a lot and I'm just like really, desperate for some breakthrough, some miracle. I feel in that moment she wants me to understand that the miracle is an inside job, baby, and that I really need to trust in the lessons and the guidance and the wisdom that I've been able to imbibe from my relationship with her. And I need to fucking use it. I need to understand that I've had enough of that good archetypal mirror. And now I need to go out in the world and actually make it happen and stop trying to hide away into the little security blanket of waiting for the next answer or understanding the next right action because I have this connection to the divine. It's about like turning the lights on inside of me, witnessing that I have inherent divinity and inherent wisdom. The gods may ignore your request because you're actually asking them to be the answer or provide the medicine. And actually growth is confronting and growth is uncomfortable. And the wisdom of a god is not the kind of wisdom that would let you get away with never experiencing that. That would be silly. That would be so silly. But I don't imagine that God consciousness is the kind of consciousness that is like, oh yes, let's wrap you up like a sushi roll and make everything all better and make the bad things go away and make everything convenient and easy for you. Like, why would that be what gods would do? Has anybody read like any system of myth? Has anybody read any stories about any beings upon which and into which humans have put their energy and their investment and their faith for aeons? Let's read that stuff. It's full of hardship. It's full of challenges. It's full of leaps of faith and tests of faith, and it's full of scary shit, and it's full of monsters that need to be slayed and quests that need to be, sort of encountered and pursued, even though they're sort of beset on every side by fear, like scary shit, fearful shit, right? So I can't even imagine that that's part of the highest God consciousness to just wrap us up all the time. And even with beings that are very much connected to the energies of compassion, peace, nurturing, the good mother archetype, right? Any of that stuff. Even those beings are going to know that hardship nurtures the soul, and, really sort of like having to take that leap of faith and having to find your own internal bravery makes the gardens within you flourish beyond measure. I think it's always really important that we ask ourselves whenever we are wanting to connect with disembodied intelligences around our challenges, what is the possibility that your being cannot protect you and give you access to your power at the same time? Is it possible that those two things are paradoxical, right? They can't give you both. They can't shield you and hand you your sword. They have to do one or the fucking other. And so when you are really hoping that they will shield, that they will protect, that they will dismiss obstacles, that they will keep you safe, that they will do things for you, What you're actually asking is that they do not give you access to the experiences that would help you build your muscle, bare your teeth, be in control of your weaponry. And maybe they're trying to do the latter and not the former. Maybe they're really trying to do the thing that means that you step to the front in the battlefield of life, rather than the thing that means that you get taken back to the tent and nurtured and coddled and have your wounds dressed, and or not even have any wounds in the first place because they were there and they swooped in and they fought the bad guys and they, protected you. Maybe they can't do both. Protection and power are often paradoxical aims for the being and for you. And maybe a being will, whisper in your ear. I always think of it a little bit like, when you're trying to ride a bike without stabilizers for the first time. I know many of you will have had that experience. And if you had any kind of functional experience in the moment of doing that, hopefully you had some kind of adult behind you going, go on, it's fine. No, don't look back at me. Ride the bike. Don't look back at me. You're okay. Go. And they'll be holding on to you for a bit and then they'll let you go, right? And maybe you've done that with your own child, whether or not you were privileged enough to have someone do it for you. And I often think of it like that. It's like, maybe the being is there, but maybe the being has to let the fuck go of the bike. They just have to. Otherwise, you're going to be on fucking stabilizers for the rest of your life, which is me, by the way. I simply cannot ride a bike for reasons that are to do with my dysfunctional upbringing, actually. I really need to put that on the to-do list. I need to get one of my friends to help me ride a bike. For those of you who love to work with journal prompts, here are some for you that you can try to help you to explore your relationship with deity and really sort of question the expectations that you have and the way that you view relationships with not just deities, but any beings, any sacred wisdoms, any disembodied intelligences that you're hooked up with and that you are in devotion to. Okay, so here we go. Journal prompt number 1, the first one. How have you allowed the wisdom of your beings to move through your voice, your actions, your decisions, and your will? So this is a really important journal prompt because what I'm asking you to do is mind the timeline of your life. Have a look at how you have overcome challenges, how you have been brave, how you have done the right thing and the hard thing, and ask yourself, how can I see the attitudes and the personality and the strengths of my beings in my own actions? Because that really determines to you that you have been working very closely with your beings in perhaps one of the most interventionist ways, which is that they have fucking inspired you to be a better and stronger version of yourself. So really, really deep it with this particular journal prompt. And this is another one that is quite similar. What about this one? How can I make decisions like the beings I'm in devotion to? How can I lead in the way that they do? How can I express myself in the way that they do? How can I deal with my challenges like they do? So you're really thinking in the future tense now, like how can I make sure I bring my signature strengths from my beings into my life journey from now on? Here's another one. This is quite shadow worky, okay? Whereabouts have I been expecting my sacred beings to replace my own activism, my own therapy, my own self-reflection, my own effort, my own community work? And you can go on and on with that. Like, whereabouts have you been expecting them to replace any of the separate forms of effort that you could be demonstrating in your life? Here's another one. My sacred beings react positively to my effort far more than my avoidance. How does this statement make you feel? How does that statement make you feel? Journal about that. Here's another one that could be quite powerful, and you can do this for each of the beings that you work with, okay? Knowing what I know about this being, how do they most want my relationship with them to change? So when you think about each individual being that you work with, ask yourself, with what I know about them, what would they think that the most powerful change would be right now? What do they want to see more of in the relationship they have with me? What is their wisdom? If you don't know the answer to that, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to actually set up a divinatory system or some ritual time and just be like, hey, I was watching a video by Kellyanne Maddox and this thing came up about how you might like to see our relationship change positively. And I wasn't sure what the answer was. Can you maybe give me a heads up? Like, what do you think would be best for our relationship? And does it have anything to do with me demonstrating more effort and taking more action? Is that what would actually, bring our devotion into more of a closeness, our communion, to allow it to become stronger? Do I need to wield my sword a bit more and show you that I am willing to show up on the battlefield and I'm willing to get in the fucking game? Is that what you haven't been fucking seeing from me? And do you want to see more of that? You know that phrase, you are the one you've been waiting for? Well, I suppose this video could be a little bit more like, you are the miracle you've been praying for. That's kind of what I'm trying to convey with my ideas in this video. We want less of the please fix this, and we want a little bit more of how can I most embody your essence today? We want less of the make this go away and more of the how can I transform this, alchemize this, learn from this, use this. That's the wisdom that I would love to glean. And if you know what, if you don't give me that wisdom right now, I will assume that it's not because you're abandoning me. It's not because you don't care about me. It's because you want me to find the answer on my own, and you trust that I can do that, and you want to see me do that so that I can then understand that I have done that, and I will put the glory on your name, and you will also see me as a more worthy dedicant than you saw me before, because I did that shit. Get at me in the comments, my darlings, and let me know what you think of this video. Whereabouts are you with your relationships with your beings? Is it time for a change? What is your perspective on the powers and the involvement of the gods and the guides and the ancestors, etc., in your life? And if you would like to have a reading from me to get messages from a deity that you work with, or to find out what kind of deities are around on the periphery wanting to work with you, then get at me. I do an incredible deity guidance spread that is very popular on my online store, and we basically go into the messages, ideas for offerings, things to avoid, things to move towards, what the being has to teach you. It's all very exciting. I have done this reading both for people that have a specific being in mind that they've been dedicated to for ages, and also for people who know that they want to hook up with beings, but they're not really sure what are the energies that are prevalent right now. So it's a really, really awesome reading. I love doing that one, so check it out. You can also come and check out my Patreon and get loads of extra exclusive goodies that are only available to my patrons. Thank you so much, my darlings. May the gods continue to be with you in just the way that you need. Much love until next time, and blessed be. Mwah.